Well, how's it going, backpackers and hikers? Dave here with Off Grid. I'm into backpacking, hiking, camping, and gear, and I've got a not so sexy topic to discuss with you guys today, and it is all about trekking poles. Now, this is a sneak peek because I plan on doing at least one other video, maybe a couple other videos on more of the pro tips and hacks and other uses for trekking poles. But the one today that I wanted to cover and go over real quick with you guys is just all about the basics. So if you're new into backpacking and hiking, this is the video for you. And if you're a little bit more experienced, hopefully you can still get something from this video. But I really just wanted to break down what they are, what they're used for, why you should consider using them, the different types of materials, the different styles, price points, all that good stuff. So let's just dive right into all the different categories today. First of which is, why you should consider them, right? Why should you consider trekking poles? There's actually a lot of hikers who still don't use them, or they may have been hiking for a number of years or even decades where they're just like, I don't want to use them. Like, I don't think that they're worthwhile. And I can attest that I've been using them since very early on in my hiking ventures here, and I have to say and attest to the fact that they definitely are knee savers, leg savers, and they help you to reduce that impact when you're on trail. Now, the negative to that a lot of people would say would be probably that it removes your real grip and your feel to the trail, and you're kind of going along with these crutches almost to help guide you through the terrain. But I think that the positive there kind of outweighs the negative in that it's going to help you on that uneven terrain, right? It can actually prevent more falls than not having them would. And one of the biggest reasons why I carry them is particularly at the end of a day, and particularly if you're going downhill at the end of a day. That's when a lot of the accidents happen. That's when you twist your ankle, or you take a wrong step and something else happens, and your body's just fatigued. You're not thinking as clearly, and you're tired from a long day of hiking. So trekking poles can definitely help you out when you're out in the field. The PSA out of the way, let's dive into the specifics now and all the other categories that I have for you guys. The first of which is going to be the different types that you can expect, right? So there are three major types that I can think of. You might be thinking, well, I can only think of two, but there's a newcomer that's in the space that I haven't tried out yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to try it out in the future, but I just heard about it. So let me go over the two more common ones. I'm going to bring up my props here for the rest of the video. The first of which is going to be your UL option, and this is an example of that. This is a Z-Pax pole. It's made out of carbon fiber, and it is still, to date that I'm aware of, the lightest weight material that you can go with. And then the other option that I have to show you guys today is going to be aluminum. This is your heavyweight option and definitely more budget friendly, but still gets the same job done as the lighter weight counterparts. Now, the third one that I've heard of, and this is really new in the space, and I've only heard of one company that's doing that, and that's Copperdale, and they are making titanium poles now. So I think that it's going to be somewhere as a cross between both of these other materials, so a little bit heavier than the carbon fiber, but probably going to be lighter than your standard aluminum poles. So what's the takeaway for the different types of materials? I think that the lighter weight that you go, it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, and then it's also not going to be as durable. And then as you go over to aluminum, it's more of like your heavy duty, your tank. You're going to save on budget as well, but it's also going to be, like I said, super heavyweight. So sort of like cook pots where you start off maybe with stainless steel, and then maybe go to aluminum, and then eventually end up with titanium. Similar thing here. I was actually gifted these poles, the aluminum poles, the first set that I ever got from some buddies, and quickly realized that there were lighter weight options out there, and kind of graduated over to something a little bit lighter, so you're not having to carry that for multiple miles on trail. Let's dive into the second category that I have for you guys today, and that is not the type of metal, but the type of pole just in general, like the style of the pole, right? So there are, again, three major types that I have for you guys today. I actually don't own one of the styles, so I'm gonna have to throw it up on screen for you guys to take a look at. But the first style that I can show you here, since I still have it on the table, is going to be the Z-Pax style. This is not my preferred way of using a pole, or preferred style of of a pole, but this is a twist lock style. So essentially what you do is you kind of like you're unscrewing it. You screw it off to the left, and then it loosens up and it enables you to pull it out. And then once you get to your height, you twist it to the right until you get a lot of tension in there, and you kind of ratchet it down that way. You do the same thing for the middle piece here. And that is that style of pole. And the other style that I can show you guys, I have right over here. And this is one by Cascade Mountain Tech. This is their carbon fiber version. But this is probably the most common, I'd venture a guess, or I'd wager, or maybe neck and neck with the last style. But this is the flip lock style. So the way that these work is they have these little flip locks that come out, and you just pull it out like that. And as long as there's enough tension on this screw here, you have to tension down this screw a little bit, and you have to kind of fool around with it to get enough tension. And then, as you heard with the snap there, it kind of just snaps into place. It's a little bit easier to work with, a little bit less of finagling, I guess I'd have to say. But I think as long as you have like this one screw kind of dialed in, it's definitely quicker than having to mess around with the twist lock of that Z-Pak style that I just showed. And then the last style that I don't have that I can throw up on screen for you guys is called, I was calling it the Z style, but I think the only thing that I can think of is the folding style. So the flip locks is more of like the collapsible style, then you got the twist locks. This next style has never really appealed to me that much. I never looked at it and was like, yeah, that's a style that I have to have, because it seems like it is the most space consuming, takes up the most volume in or on the outside of your pack. And basically what the poles do is they just come out into 3 different sections, and you kind of fold it together, sort of like, you know, a backpacking chair. If you bring a backpacking chair when you're out there, they just kind of like come out, and then you fold them together, and they kind of collapse that way. Like I said, kind of bulky, not really my preferred style. It could be easy to like put together and then take apart, but I like these other versions just because they collapse down a lot easier. So definitely have to, you know, recommend these other styles to you guys over that you know, folding split apart style. All right. Next, I'm going to talk very briefly on the different price points that you can expect, again, with the aluminum style here. And this is just, I think, a Chinese version. It literally says made in China right over here. The aluminum style versions are littered all over Amazon. You can pick these up for anywhere in like the low $20 range to about $30, and that's for the pair. They are, you know, again, they're tanks. They're going to last you a number of years, but they're going to be super heavy as well. I'm going to get into the different weights right after this bullet point with the prices here, but really cheap and you know, durable. Can't really go wrong with any of the options except for like one caveat that I'm going to get into in a little bit. The next style with the titanium, I'm not really sure of. Maybe I can do some research and throw it up on screen for you guys as far as like the expected price point for the titanium versions, but Copperdale seems to be a little bit more expensive anyway, so as of right now I can't really recommend them because I haven't really tested them out. So I can't really say if they're worth the price or not, because again, they're just launching. But these carbon fiber versions, and I actually have 3 different carbon fiber versions, can't really talk today. The first of which is the same version of the aluminum style there, the same Chinese version I saw also made a carbon fiber version. And this one, shockingly, was also pretty cheap. So if the aluminum version was only in like the $20-ish range, these were just under $40. I had to look it up in my Amazon purchases and my history, but I ended up buying these for I think about $37 for the pair. And ended up saving about half of the weight compared to the aluminum pair and set that I got. And then for these other ones here, this is the Cascade Mountain Tech. This is actually a monopod that I got, so which basically means they only sell it in like a pack of 1, so you just get 1, but I ended up getting 2 anyway. And the main reason why I got this as a you know, a sneak peek into other features that you can do with the poles is this one has a cork cap that comes off here. So, and then it has just a standard threading. So if you wanted to thread on like a GoPro, like I'm shooting on right now, or any other types of like cameras or an adapter for your phone or something like that, then that's a cool feature of this particular model. But this one I think was somewhere around $40 or $50 a pole, something like that. So a little bit more expensive. And then the Z-Packs version here, which is the most ultralight, is somewhere around, I think, a normal MSRP of about $100, but I got it on a Black Friday deal, and I ended up getting, I think, both of them for about $60. So definitely hunt around for the deals on the trekking poles. All right, let's get into the different weights that you can expect for these guys as well. Again, bringing them back up. You've got your aluminum pole here, and these I think are definitely the heaviest, and they end up weighing anywhere from like 10 to 12 ounces a piece, which is pretty heavy. So if you're talking about over a pound just holding on to in your hands hiking down the trail, that's definitely ultra clunky and heavy. So I can't really recommend those unless you're just like a super beginner and you just want to see if you want to use trekking poles and you don't want to spend that much money. You can go with something like that option. The next ones here are the carbon fiber. So again, I can't really speak to the titanium. Maybe I can look that up for you guys if I find any specs on that. But the other three that I have for you today are all carbon fiber, and it really depends on how much money you spend and then how much, or I should say how the thickness of the material really goes. So let me kind of explain what I mean here. So for the cheap Chinese one here that I have, I think these ended up being about 7 to 7.5 ounces per pole, so close to about half the weight, maybe a third less of the weight of the aluminum version. And then the Cascade monopod ended up being actually a little bit heavier than this BAFX, or Chinese, it's called BAFX. Carbon fiber versions, mostly because of this cork handle, and then the topper. The cork tends to be a little bit heavier, so even though this is also carbon fiber, they also have an additional foam piece right here. So depends on what kind of features they go with there for the overall weights and how they add into it. And then super minimalist with the Z-Packs pole here. They don't have all the additional flip locks, so the twist locks, getting rid of the flip locks helped them save some weight here. They went with a foam handle, which also helped them save some weight. And then the thickness of the shaft of the carbon fiber here is probably also ultra thin, and this one only weighs 4.7 ounces per pole, so close to about half of the weight of even the carbon fiber version, and I guess 3 times less the weight, somewhere around there, I can't really do math, of the aluminum style. So that's it on the weights. Another category that I'm going to dive into here is going to be what else kind of comes with the trekking poles when you get them. So primarily, and what I've seen with most models, is that they come with 3 different styles of attachments. One that I don't have is a snow basket, which is really just used, as the name states, if you're going out, snowshoeing or into heavier snow. They have a really wide basket for that. One of the primary ones that I was using here, I haven't even taken it off of these, are called mud baskets. So it's basically like a snow basket, just a narrower diameter that they go with here. So, and really this is used primarily in softer ground and or, as the name suggests, like if you have muddy ground, soft ground, what ends up happening is the tip doesn't go all the way into the ground, and this basket kind of catches it, so you're not like sinking your poles all the way into the ground. I have another version here from the Z-Packs pole that I got, which is very similar. Bring up the other pole again. Very similar to this other snow basket, just a smaller diameter here. So again, Z-Packs is always thinking about weight and saving weight, so they just went with a narrower design, even more narrow than the other one. And then the last style that usually comes with your trekking poles is for more of the street walking. So it's not really what I talk about on this channel as much, but if you're going around town and you still want to have a trekking pole with you, you can decide to put on something like this, which is just mostly meant for asphalt walking and road walking. But the primary difference of these two is that the one for the street walking just kind of goes on like an end cap here. It doesn't really work well if you're going to be going off trail or whatever on dirt hiking trails. And that is susceptible obviously to just popping off because it doesn't screw on like the mud basket does. So the mud basket twists on almost like you're screwing in a screw right there. So that's not really going to go anywhere unless it ends up breaking. So the mud basket is definitely more preferred for the backcountry if you have some of that softer ground. All right, the last thing that I'm going to talk about here before kind of wrapping up is going to be the different types of handles that are on these trekking poles. And again, I think there are 3 major types, so somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but I have come across 3 major types. The first of which I'm going to go over, and let's bring the aluminum back up here, is a plastic handle. So it has some ridges in here, but it's not super comfortable. It's very rigid, very tight, and this style I would recommend the least because it doesn't work well for like wet hands either. You're also more prone to blisters and stuff like that with a very hard handle to hold on to. The next style that I can talk about here is the foam handle style. So this one is actually kind of like a hybrid. So again, this is the Bafex carbon fiber. They decided to go with foam, but I think what they ended up doing was wrapping the foam around a harder plastic. So it's definitely a little bit softer, but it is still more rigid than some of the other options that are out there. All right, the next style I'm gonna talk about here is going to be the cork style. This is the last style that I have for you today. This is preferred by a lot of different backpackers, and they say that it is better at wicking away the sweat. Actually, this is the second to last, so sorry about that. They say that it's better at wicking away the sweat, and that the cork molds to your hand a little bit more as you continue to use it. I've used this one for a number of miles, and I can't really say with any kind of certainty that it's kind of molding to my hand more, or kind of you know, slowly shifting in any kind of way. But maybe I'm just a little bit lighter on my gear. And then the last one, I promise this is the last one that I'm going to talk about, is your straight up foam. So the Bafex one was kind of like a hybrid between foam and plastic, and the Z-Packs here is just all foam. Some of them are even more cushy and more cushiony. It's not even a word, but you know, like the LT5s from Gossamer Gear, I think I've held those before, and that one had even more kind of like plush to it. And more give to the foam. This is a little bit harder of a foam, but definitely less rigid than the straight up plastic pieces. So those are the different types of handles that you can expect. So what's my personal preference? I don't really know. I'd probably say either the cork or the foam. I think I did have issues with the harder plastic, and maybe even the hybrid of the plastic and the foam. When I was out there, I might have had an issue with a blister on one or a couple occasions there, but I haven't really come across that with the foam or the cork handle. Now the cork handle, again, is going to be a little bit more rigid, so I think the most comfortable that you can go with is the foam, but you know, some people have gripes about that as well, like a lot of them are black like this. They say that it ends up rubbing off on their hands and whatnot, but you know, for me, you know, I'm kind of on an ultralight kick now, so I'd probably lean more towards the foam, but the cork works just as well in my opinion. All right, so but that's going to wrap it up here. Let me get my final thoughts and a couple other things to consider here. The first of which is, outside of the price, what you really want to look forward to with trekking poles is longevity and durability here. So like I said, the aluminum poles are probably going to be your best bet to last the longest. And then, you know, if you have a thicker carbon fiber shaft, then it could probably still last you for a number of years. Like I've heard a lot of people with the Cascade Mountain Techs here, they said that these are like bulletproof and they've lasted them a number of years on trail. And then the thing that you have to worry about here is probably the ultralight option with like the Z-Packs here. Whenever you're shaving as much weight as possible, you're going to start compromising on the materials, if only a little bit. So like I said, the shaft on this one is going to be thinner than the Cascade Mountain Tech, and that basically means that with, you know, rugged and rough use on trail, you can expect this one to last less or not as long as the other thicker carbon fiber shaft options. All right, one of the last things that I'll say here is, if you're new to backpacking and hiking, maybe give the aluminum poles a look if you don't want to spend that much money, but I would definitely recommend going with a lighter weight carbon fiber option. like I said, I've kind of ultimately graduated to these Z-Pax poles here because I got a really good deal on them, and they are super ultra light. But if you're a little bit tougher on your gear and you really slam those poles into the ground, then you might want something that is a little bit heavier, a little bit thicker, and a little bit more durable. So something like the Cascade Mountain Tech or the Foxelli poles are pretty popular as well, and have got a great number of positive reviews on Amazon and elsewhere in the hiking community. That's going to do it for this one. Again, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit up the comments down below and let me know all your thoughts on all of these introductory tech specs and everything that has to do with trekking poles. And again, make sure you're subscribed if you want to know more about alternative uses for these trekking poles and kind of like pro tips on how to use them when you're out in the field. Then be on the lookout for the channel. That's probably going to be the next video in the arena of trekking poles that I release on the channel. So thank you so much again for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. And remember, if you're headed off grid, make sure you do research and you make it a safe one. And I'll see you guys on the next one. The next style that I'm going to talk about is going to be the carbon fiber. I got a call coming in.